Welcome everybody to another episode of Let's Talk Music Richmond. I'm your co-host Bill McGee, and my partner in crime is Charles Manns, the famous Charles Manns from Eugene, My Brother Love, Anglo-Saxon Brown, and all them other different groups. And tonight we have the honor and privilege of talking to one of the best drummers that Richmond, Virginia has ever produced, and that's Mr. Ronnie Coates.
Of course, it's a pleasure to have Ronnie as a guest today. Ronnie, as I reflect on my encounters with Ronnie, he was playing with Starfire, and back at the, I think it was called the Cozy Cat. Joe Carter was the owner at the time, and we used to do this gig every Wednesday night, and we would bring together three bands: Poison, Eugenia, and Starfire. And that was a big deal on a Wednesday night in Richmond back in the, I would say probably mid-70s. So it's a pleasure to have Ronnie here today. Ronnie, I don't know how you got your start, but how about you tell us that? How did you actually get started playing drums, and name some of those groups that you played with over the years?
Okay, I started elementary school, so I got an easy steps to the band book and taught myself sitting on the front porch. Okay, so I ended up going to Armstrong because they had the great music during that time. And then I ended up going to, they started busing, I ended up at Huguenot. I went to Virginia State, and they sent us to an annex, which was in Lynchburg. First group that traveled a lot. Marvelous Souls, about 4 or 5 horns, 2 guitars, bass, and drummers, so that was the first time. Marvelous Soul was with Marvelous Maxie doing the James Brown. And then I went back to school, got my degree in accounting, came back out, and I was playing with first recording with Smoke. They changed it to Starfire because somebody had already recorded under that name.
So Tommy was originally with that group, right?
Yes. They called me, and Little Tommy had some problems, didn't make it. They called me to play a gig in Albany, Georgia at Albany State College. I learned the music going down there, and I ended up playing with them for the rest of the time.
I remember the big white Afro wigs that you got, that the band used to wear. Oh, yeah.
Right.
Smoke.
Yeah, and the silver uniforms.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So now, in your travels, as you say, the band started traveling a lot. Where has it taken you?
Starfire traveled from Canada to Florida, far west is Texas, and all the states in between. It taught me that you need to do your own music. That's all I can say. You need to do your own music. And so when I got back off of the road with them, and I went back to school, I ended up playing with Plunky. And that was the highlight of my career, I think. Plunky opened for a lot of celebrities. We traveled to Africa, and we stayed in Africa about a month, touring Africa and England and places like that. And so I got to meet a lot of celebrities that I had albums by. After that, I was playing with a group called Friends, which was Carl Lester and Lance Dickerson, Rudy Faulkner. All of us did a lot of recordings and things, and also opening for different people.
So you said that you went to high school at Armstrong for a while.
I went there in '69.
Okay.
I went there in '69, but I finished in.
So that's the year. That's the year after Jerome Braley graduated.
Yeah.
Yeah. Braley was in '68.
Right. Yeah.
I was '67. Braley was '68.
Carl Nails and Gino and other people like that.
They're a little bit ahead of that.
Right, that's what I'm saying. They were before there. I was trying to back up like you were backing up.
Yeah, Carl Nails probably about 63 or something along that line.
Right. And then Ray Smith said he was 61.
Yeah, Ray Smith was there.
Lonnie Liston Smith was 57.
Yeah, Lonnie. A whole lot of.
Y'all have some. I mean, I'm just going back showing you how that Armstrong music program, man, produced recording artists all throughout the 50s and 60s and 70s. Every time you
Poochie Branch was there.
Poochie Ross.
To Ross, right?
Yeah.
The thing is that Maurice Williams, he was quite an instructor. I mean, actually, Johnny Payton was my first instructor, but then Maurice
Yeah, I
Williams,
remember Johnny
Armstrong,
Payton.
and like Ronnie said, Armstrong had a marching band. They
Right.
had a serious marching band during those years.
Yeah. See, I was supposed to go to Maggie Walker. I lived on Maplewood in the West End, but I stayed with my aunt and uncles over in Church Hill so I could go to Armstrong because the marching band played out the horse. You remember that?
Yes.
Yeah, all of those kind of, yeah, and I thought that was hip. So that's how I ended up going to Armstrong, and that's how I ended up playing with Marvelous Soul because I was in Church Hill.
But Ronnie, you have a studio in your home, and I know just recently I heard some of your music that you're working on these days. How have you found the transition between the way we used to do analog recording and live recording over at Apple Audio and all that stuff, as opposed to today, the technology allows us to do that kind of experimentation and endeavors right at home. How have you found that experience to be?
Well, it's a learning curve for me, but because I'm used to the analog old ways, and so that transition has been a learning curve. But I've learned how to do it, trying to keep up. These young folks can do that with no problem. I mean, they're doing it on their phone. But but yeah, it's great to sit here and I take my time and write, and I think that's a wonderful tool. They have the avenue to do all the things that you want to do. You have to pay that money to do it in studio live, It's so much cheaper and so much easier. You spend as much time you want. I mean, I'm at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning, and I ain't got to pay nobody.
See, Charles, Ronnie is one of them smart cats where he has an electronic drum set, a trigger set. So he can play in the middle of the night, not disturb anybody.
That's right.
And then he can also switch up the drum sounds, so that if he wants a fat, thick, dark kick, he can get that,
Well, that's what digital recording and the techniques that are available today, that's what it allows us. It allows us more areas to experiment and entertain other sounds and other genres. As a drummer, you're hitting triggers. Piano, as a trumpet player yourself, Bill, and as a sax player myself. What happens now with the electronics, it allows us, I can just take any MIDI instrument and generate any MIDI sound and make the full orchestration myself, as opposed to calling on my old guys to come in and play this part, play that part, But Charles, now I know you still doing it that way because of convenience and because of the music that you're doing. But I found myself, like Ronnie and I and other guys who are still like trying to put out records, we found ourselves doing as much live as we were doing MIDI before. But the difference is we're doing it using stems. So it's like somebody will send me a mix. I'll pull it up in my computer, play all my parts, and send them back just the horn parts. I went through that initially. I did a lot of collaboration initially in order to put music together.
I think what I was trying to say was that Ronnie and I were just talking, and he was sharing with me some tracks that he had worked on originally as MIDI tracks. And then he sent the stems or mix to Lance Dickerson, and Lance sent him a piano part back. He sent the stems to Lucy Kilpatrick. She sent him a keyboard bass part back. He sent it to Rudy Faulkner. He sent him the vocals back. And so even though, I guess nowadays, even though we're not all recording in the same room, there's still a lot of live playing being done, along with the MIDI stuff that's being done. I was just telling them about the track I did that ended up #1, Hispanica, that featured by Christian de Mesones, that featured Bob James. And I was telling Ronnie how that came about and how that, I had 24 hours to turn the horns around. But as a matter of fact, and then we were talking about record promotion and things like that. But Ronnie, I want to get back to something. I want to get back to some names. So when you left Armstrong and went to Huguenot, was Nelson Lawson the band director?
Yes, and me and Nelson became really close friends. He gave me a scholarship to Southern University. Oh man, that was awesome. But I didn't. I ended up going to Virginia State. You know, parents didn't want me to go that far away, and I still ended up traveling that way anyway.
We're mentioning a lot of people who have left us, Ronnie, because we want their names remembered. So Bubba Ross, Linwood Ross.
Yeah, Linwood Ross.
Who played with your band. Right. I got a picture of Linwood and I playing with the jazz band at Virginia State. And we played together the trumpet section with the jazz band. And I always admired him and your guys. And man, his career, boy, took off. He became a singer, dancer, Hollywood superstar. Then he became a preacher.
Yeah.
And all of that, you know, but I want to remember Linwood Ross because he played with your group when the Marvelous Souls and
That's right.
Charisma. But tell us some of the other guys who played with the groups when you first started.
Anthony Ingram, which is still alive. He's not.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. It was Steve and Kevin, their brothers. He played guitar, actually.
Okay, play guitar. Okay.
Steve, I don't know I forgot their last names.
Okay.
But anyway, Vernon Sparks. Yeah, Vernon Sparks was from Virginia State. James
Willie Edwards.
Willie Edwards played trombone.
What about Demetrius Johnson, I think?
He played with Psychic.
Psychic, okay.
Mm-hmm,
Oh, Sneed. And
Doug,
then Percy.
Yeah, Doug.
Percy Minor. As I told you before, when Carlton Ailes passed away, it kind of like it hit home because Charles and I had been talking about doing this. I called Charles up and told him Carlton had passed away, and it caught him off guard because he had just talked to Carlton a week prior to that, right, saying that we were going to do this kind of thing.
I played for 20 years with Debo. And
there you go.
That was another monster keyboard player.
Yes, sir.
That I really enjoyed playing with. It was a lot.
I understand. Debo started out on trumpet, is what I understand. Somebody called my attention to that.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Debo actually started out being a trumpet player.
Yes. So, Ronnie, then after you played with those guys with Charisma and you went and worked with Starfire, we mentioned Blood Garrison.
Yeah,
right.
Rudy
Leeper.
Jay Pryor and Willie McWhite.
And Willie McWhite, you know who's been the quietest cat in the city of Richmond since he stopped playing with yours, Willie McWhite.
Yeah.
Willie been quiet, boy.
Yeah, but he playing with these 7 choirs.
Yeah, I knew he was playing with some choirs, right?
Right, and he's still
he's still in the Richmond area?
Looks the same. Not only he still looks the same.
Does he?
The same size, the same look, everything, just like it was the last time you saw him.
You know another person who looked the same, man, that we had on here was Marshall from Poison. Marshall Smith.
Marshall.
We had Marshall Smith on from Poison. Man.
I think Marshall looked younger than he did then.
He looked 20 years younger than Charles and I.
No doubt about it.
Wow. Looks good. So maybe we got to try to get Willie McWhite on too. So then after you left that group, you played with Plunky. So who are the other people that played with you over Plunky? A lot of people came.
Nat Lee was one of the guys that played with me.
Absolutely.
Weldon Hill.
Yes.
Rosmel got me in the group. Rosmel Glover. He got me in the group.
Rosmel got you in the group.
Right. I just got a group with Starfire, and he said, "Man, come on, play with us." And so I played with them 19 years, and you know, there were musicians. Kevin Teasley with keyboard. He was in high school and came up monster now. He's playing with J-Lo. He's directing for
Kevin's just a monster. We're gonna try to get him on too, Charles, because Kevin was after you had left. But his father, Eugene Teasley, played in a group called Point Blank Wide Open with Rod Gray.
Petersburg.
Okay, so Eugene is a singer and everything else. And Kevin is on a whole nother level, man. He works with Jennifer Lopez, Beyonce, Saweetie. He works at the top. He did Jennifer Lopez. Charles, you and Kevin would really be, because he did Jennifer's whole Vegas show. right? And he is a Pro Tools monster. He's done the Super Bowl, the Grammys. He's a Pro Tools monster. He works with Rick and Minor.
Yeah.
He works with all them top cats in LA. And Neve just put new consoles in his studio. I think they put 5 new consoles in his studio for him to demo for people.
Yeah, he a monster.
So if you at the level where Neve gonna give you a console to demo, you's a bad boy.
Oh yeah, you're a bad boy. You're a bad boy.
So Ronnie, somebody else that came through Plunkett's band with you. Name some other people.
Yeah, Kaite, Chip, and the girl used to play with Ujima. Tanya Jackson played keyboard and sing, and she played with Plunkett as well, you know. And then it was Ochema Asante from Africa.
Yes.
He came here with Hugh Masekela, and he been ever since. And we did a tour with him in Africa for a month.
In Africa, okay.
And then
how was that experience?
Awesome, man. That was one of the highlights in my life. And the other one was playing with Ramsey Lewis. But it changed my life a lot because we have so much to be thankful for over here. We got so much convenience. We took me 2 weeks to get to a phone to call back home and say that I made it. So it was an experience I'll never forget. After that, after I left Plunkett, I was in and out with reggae group Tunji, which was Summer Trestle.
Yeah, we talked to Blues the other night.
Yeah, Blues and Larry,
and he mentioned you. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so that was a great experience playing reggae.
Yeah. So Ronnie, let me ask you this. One of the things we always ask everybody is that with this vast amount of exposure and things that you have mentioned so far, what is the one single thing that stands out in your mind as far as what music has done for you or being involved in the music scene? Is it somebody you met? Was it a trip that you took? Was it a place that you visited? Well, what is it? The concert you might have done?
Some of all of that, but I think the one thing that I always want to be a talk show host drummer. Watching all the talk shows and seeing it, the drummers in the band on the side, I wanted to do that because I knew they made money. But anyway, so I got the chance to do that with Ramsey Lewis. He had a show called The Styles and Sounds of Ramsey Lewis on BET. And Hannah Lane got me that gig, and I started playing with Ramsey Lewis. It was me and Keith Horn and Ramsey Lewis. And he would interview people, Kenny Burrell, so many jazz musicians I got to meet on that show. And I did that for a year with him until they went on location and they left the studio. It started with me and Keith Horn. Keith Horn left and played with Tanya Tucker in Nashville.
Right.
And so I got Carl Lester, and it was me, Carl Lester, and him. We finished it out.
I never knew you had played with Ramsey. I knew Carl had. And now I know Hannah got y'all the gig, so that's like crazy, right?
He also got me the gig with Living Single, playing the cues.
Right.
That kind of stuff.
With Stu Gardner.
Yeah.
This network of friends all coming out of Richmond, Virginia area, and all of this activity was going on between the 60s, 70s, and 80s for the most part. I mean, there's a whole lot of strings here that reaches out and touches a lot of people outside of Richmond, all over the country, actually all over the world.
All over the world. Let me tell you this story, child. I have a picture of myself, Gates, John Scott, and Charles Newton, and another guy playing with Lou Rawls.
Wow.
With Stu Gardner, but guess who was the music director? H.B. Barnum.
Oh, okay.
And H.B. Barnum is like one of the most famous, he's Aretha Franklin and all them other people. He's like one of the most famous music directors for black folk in the last 40 years.
When I was with Phil International, Lou Rawls used to tell me, Charles, don't sing. Just keep on playing sax. Don't sing, Charles. Don't sing.
Yeah. What's the biggest gig you ever played?
I tell you one, we opened for Shaka Khan, and then Shaka Khan came over to the place with a Grant's Jazz Bar, and she got behind my drums, gave me a big hug and kiss.
Oh, beautiful.
That was that was cool. most of the gigs were when we opened for somebody that had an album by, and there was several of them. I mean, it was several of that going on. I mean, Ronald Isley, Angela Winbush, George Duke. I could go on. Even Bishop Tutu was on one of the shows.
Wow.
I got to meet him.
That's when you were in Africa?
No, actually, it was here in Richmond.
Okay.
He was at the mosque.
The work that we have all done exposed us to the best there is in the industry. Even though we might not have had the number one hit, we hung with some heavy duty. That's right. Some heavy hitters, boy. I'm telling you,
I'm glad you mentioned that, because I remember waking up one day and I just had this awake moment one day in the studio in Philly. And that was in 78. And that year, down Philly, we had 21 gold albums that year.
Wow.
21 gold albums. And I remember asking my answers. He said, I passed by guys in line outside the studio every day trying to get into this building.
Right.
And I'm going, how come I'm inside and I know some of those guys outside will play circles around me? You know what I mean?
Right.
And what he told me was, well, every one of those guys standing in line come here every day to show us what they can do. But you come in here and do what we tell you to do. That's why you're inside and they're outside. You become a tool to help them to be a part of making that whole cycle work. And you got a shot to get to the top of the chain, depending on how well you produce and deliver on what the assignment is. It's like anything else. You work your way up the ladder inside.
Everybody that we know, they didn't get their foot in the door like we have. Here's a question, Ronnie. Who else have you had personal conversations with?
Oh, I shared a room. I shared a room with the guitar player. He passed away, but Lucille.
With B.B. King.
B. King. I shook hands with Ray Charles. I shook hands with Ray Charles, Melba Moore. It's a lot more too than I can go on and on with. Mickey Howard and the trumpet player, Patrice Rush and
Tom Brown, Donald Byrd, people like that.
Byrd, yeah, that's right. So we open for all of these people at some point, and sometimes more than once. So those are the shows, and my biggest thing I think in my life was being able to be on stage and share with those people that I had albums by.
There were other people that came around after Ujima and Trussell and Poison and stuff, like other bands or performers came around. The DJ era, the rappers era, those guys did come around, and they have gone on and done fantastic things as well.
Yes.
But see, one thing I noticed though, after the 80s and those people, those rappers came, a lot of it, the clubs and places that we were playing went into DJs and so then in higher bands, and most of the musicians went to gospel.
Yeah.
We're playing a lot of and the music changed in the gospel scene to be sounding like
R&B. But I tell you what else that a lot of the guys did, Ronnie, which is they became wedding bands. We talk right now about the fact wedding bands make more money than recording artists.
Yeah.
I mean, they make a lot of money.
Yeah, we call it corporate. They're doing well. I know a bunch of them too. Bill, you mentioned Climax. Joyce Irby lived here in Richmond, and she played with Starfire for a little while. She played bass, and we tried to push Blood up front.
Yeah, we all three of us are very close to Joyce. Charles and I both, and matter of fact, Joyce has got a book coming out. That she's promoting.
She just released last week.
Yeah. Rudy was talking to her online. Yeah.
Called I'll Still Say Yes.
Yeah, it's out now. It's already out.
Okay.
Ronnie, kind of wrap us up, man. Tell us what you're doing now. Tell us what you about to do, what you're trying to do. Just tell us about some of the blessings in your life. Just tell us what's going on
in my life, to still be able to play and still be able to do this. Right now, I'm dealing with the technology of recording and stuff at home with the studio equipment I got here in the background, and working with friends like you all, and still trying to get. I got music coming out now that I hopefully will do something with. Although I'm still with the old school music, I got to get with the new stuff because I'm still into the jazz and smooth jazz style. So jazz was my background, but I grew into the R&B with James Brown and all that coming up after doing the Starfire. I mean, Marvelous Soul days and on after that. So what I'm doing now, as I said before, I'm trying to working with the technology and doing stuff from home. With the pandemic, I don't have to have the musicians here. We can just email the copy of the stuff and they play on and send it back, and it makes it real easy and fine, you know. So that's what I'm doing now.
Very good.
Awesome. Well, Ronnie, I want to say thank you, man, for allowing us to capture your story on Let's Talk Music Richmond. Charles, thank you again for your time being the co-host. And we're fortunate to have a chance to finally get to talk to some of Richmond's finest musicians.
It is a pleasure to talk to you, Ronnie. Good to see you again. And I wish you the very best. Wish you the very best in whatever those music pursuits are.
Okay, thank you.
You guys have a good day, and this is another wrap-up of Let's Talk Music Richmond.
Richmond.
All right. Thank you.